Welcome
Oh,
back to Show and Tell. I'm Billy, and today I have a guest coming to us from Liverpool. Her name is Katriana, and I briefed her before we started that the one question I ask all of my guests is, tell us something about your town that if we were to come there as tourists, we would not find in the tour books. So take it away.
okay. So I live in the Georgian Quarter, which is sort of just outside of the city centre, and there's beautiful Georgian buildings there. There's a beautiful cathedral. The cathedral will probably be in the guidebook, but there's this beautiful cafe that I've been going to through like for years since I was a student, and it's called the Egg Cafe, and it's a vegan and vegetarian restaurant, and it's one of my favourite. It's so quaint and it's got such character. So yeah, that's one of the places that I'd recommend. That it's probably quite hidden, so you probably wouldn't it probably wouldn't be advertised. So yeah.
Perfect, perfect.
Yeah.
So are you a vegan?
I'm vegetarian. I was raised vegetarian and I was vegan for a few years, but I'm just vegetarian now.
Well, it's still very admirable.
Ah.
Thank you for doing that. It's a little less pollution of our
Yeah.
collective airspace. So, yeah, I mean, I really want to explore Liverpool. I haven't been there, but I know people really want to hear about knitting
Yeah.
and reason that they're here. So, normally the people I'm talking with are knitting vintage, but it's a little different from your vintage because we're
Mhm.
more early 20th century between the wars or even like maybe a little pre-war. But
Yeah.
from looking at your things, it looks like you've gone back further than that.
Mhm.
So tell us about your knitting and tell us what inspires you to knit the things that you do.
Yeah, so I think one of the main eras is the Tudor era, and I've just always been fascinated by that era. I think just visually, just how they, accentuate the female form. They're just quite exaggerated and powerful appearances, and I've always been fascinated by that era. So I tend to, I'm doing a series where I look at the wives of Henry VIII, and I just try to recreate them. Not really, it's not really a replica of it. It's more just little suggestions and the silhouette. I'm trying to like sort of emulate the silhouette and some little details. So that's an era that I absolutely love. So you'll probably see a lot of that in like square necklines and exuberant sleeves and things like that.
Exuberant sleeves
Yeah.
sounds like they take a lot of time to knit.
Yeah. I'm naturally drawn to picking up extra stitches and they end up a lot bigger than I maybe envision sometimes, but I just like that. I think sometimes you don't always feel like wearing them when they're so big, but yeah, it is something, it's a habit that I have to make them quite big.
So are these movies and television series inspiring to you? Do you watch those
Yeah.
to get
Yeah,
ideas?
definitely. Yeah, I definitely watch anything related to that. But I also just I love paintings. I'm a painter myself, so I quite often just draw it directly from the paintings of the wives or Tudor history.
They were big into jewelry also.
Yeah.
Do you do the jewelry to go with the sweaters? Like, do you find?
Um, no, little maybe elements. Like I got a Tudor rose necklace for a birthday present once. So sometimes I will add little details, but not quite so heavy on the jewelry.
So, like, you're not incorporating beading or
Oh yeah, on my Anne Boleyn blouse there is actually beading across.
see.
Yeah.
Do you have that one that you can show
Yeah.
us?
Do you
Oh,
want to
good.
see that? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, of course. We want to see.
So this is the Anne Boleyn blouse. So you can see the beading across.
Oh,
And you can see a
yeah.
little closer on the neckline. So it's just knitted into the neckline, and it's you can see the sleeves. So
Oh,
I
I
like that
love that
too.
it's two-tone.
Yeah.
Oh, it's
It was
really
trying to emulate some elements of. I mean, the portrait, the colors on is green, but they had like different tones in their dresses. So yeah, it's emulating the Anne Boleyn portrait.
if I can find the portrait that you're referring to, I'll put a picture here. Where is this
Yeah.
portrait? Do you know? Is it in the National
So
Gallery or?
it's one in the National Gallery. It's an unknown artist. I actually, if you just give me a second, I've got a little book here that I can. I think I've saved the page. So it's this one here.
Okay. There we go. Wow. So you said that the beads are knitted right in. Uh,
Yeah.
I've used a technique for knitting sequins into stitches. I wonder if you're doing
Oh,
the
nice.
same thing. The pearls are pre-strung on the yarn.
Oh no, I don't do that because these are quite sometimes I do it that way, but these are larger. So I get a crochet hook that's small enough to fit into the hole of the bead. So you need quite big beads for that. Just so it fits in, and then you just pull the yarn, like the stitch through the bead, and then it just fits on. Then you just knit it on then.
And then you continue knitting until you get to the
Yeah,
next pearl.
yeah,
Beautiful.
that's right.
Now you've designed everything that you're going to show us.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so of course people are going to want to know where they can find you. So you're on Ravelry at,
So it's just cat and cage. So it's with a
okay,
C, cat and cage. Yeah,
I
just on
will,
there.
I'll have that on the screen. I'll also have it in the show notes.
I'm also on Etsy as well, but my Etsy account is actually called the Raspberry Beret Co because I used to do a lot of berets, and that was what it was called. So I haven't gotten around to changing the name, but I can send you the links to all of them if that's
Perfect,
helpful.
perfect. And, I'll give them to people. Now people can purchase things from you, right? You're like
Yes.
knit on command or by commission,
Yeah. Yeah, by commission. Yeah, so they can actually have the hand knits made to order. Yeah.
and you take the measurements of the people and you try and adapt it to their
Yeah.
form.
Yeah, so they're completely tailored. But I can do just if they say it's a gift for somebody, I'll just go through standardized sizing. But yeah, they can tailor every element of the garment.
Wow, I'm always challenged when I'm knitting from authentic vintage patterns because they're
Yeah.
only written in one size. And a lot of the times the sleeves are set in. So figuring out how to change the sleeve cap and so on to get it to fit into
Hmm.
my narrow shoulders but larger chest.
Yeah.
I'm envious of the people who can just, do that.
I think it's easier when it's your own pattern because then you make the rules. But I think with when it's a set pattern, somebody else's, it's more difficult. But I always try to incorporate notes in my patterns where they can tailor certain things. So, for example, if I knit top down, there'll be a shoulder seam, and I'll often that can be tailored because everybody's shoulders, even if you're the same dress size as somebody, your shoulders could be completely different. So I always try to add that in, and also the length that we knit in the armhole depth as well, just to make sure there's more room for people or less room if they need it. So I think that's really important. It's something that I try to always make sure I add into the patterns.
Okay, so I have to ask you because it's like my burning question. I
Yeah.
personally come up against this all the time. And if it's a
Mhm.
trade secret, tell me. No, I can't tell you the answer. But my shoulders are narrow. My bust is bigger than somebody with my shoulder size would typically have. So I don't usually knit top down, but if I were knitting top down, how far
Mhm.
down should I go before I start to increase to get me to the underarm?
So to so after the shoulder increase to create the armhole depth.
Yes.
So I
Yeah.
usually just yeah, I usually just knit down. It depends which way I do it, but I'll knit down, say, sort of the middle of the bust or just before, and then I'll start the increases there. So then it creates more room as you go down. If I'm doing, sorry,
So
go on.
even if it's a big difference, like let's say my shoulders are they're not, but let's say they're 12 inches wide from shoulder blade to shoulder blade, but I have a 40-inch bust, which I don't. But I'm giving you a dramatic example. So I've got
Mm-hmm.
to get from here all the way out to like a bigger thing. You're not gradually increasing, you go straight down and then chung a big
Oh
increase.
no, you graduate it, but you sort of see. I always do it against, and I tell people to put the knitting up against their body. So when I knit in the round and it's top down, it's a little easier. So if you knit in flat, maybe it's harder to tell. But you put it up against your body, and then you look at where is the appropriate position for you to then start doing the increases, like when it starts getting larger, and then you'll check against your body as when to stop. So that's how I usually just guided by your own body. Really, is the best way to do it.
Normally I'm not knitting top down though, so that's,
Yeah, so it's probably harder for
and I am knitting
traditional
flat.
construction.
I'm knitting flat because that's how most of the
Yeah.
patterns are written. Unless it's fair out, then it's in the round and you steek. But
Yeah.
okay, well, it's still somewhat of a tip, and I hope that other people find that information helpful because it sounds like you maybe have a dressmaking background.
No, actually, no.
No?
No, it's just something that I think because my body shape is, I have a larger bust for my frame, and I think I've just, in order to wear things that I feel comfortable in, I think I've just had to learn that myself when I'm making things.
I'm still learning.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the beautiful thing about knitting.
Yeah.
There's always more to learn and different techniques and
And your expectations of yourself, I think, always get higher. So you always want to do more. And yeah, it's a constant learning process. Yeah.
it certainly is.
Yeah.
Okay, so keep going. It sounds like you've got more to show.
Yeah. So I don't know if you can see the one behind here. So I'll just bring it a bit closer. So this is going to be so Anne of Cleves is another Henry VIII's wife, and it's based on a portrait of her by Hans Holbein. Holbein, sorry, do you know? Are you aware
Of
of the
course,
paintings?
he's
Yeah.
very
So it's
famous.
on that particular portrait, and it's some of the details that are in the fabric, and I'm trying to work them in. And shall I take it off here so you can see? So on this, I'm doing the sleeves here, and it's got a little sort of ferrule band, and then I'm going to increase again, so it's got the shape of the sleeve, similar to the portrait. If you look at the portrait, you'll see how it kind of puffs out and then goes back out again at the bottom. So it's just in the process of working that one, and it's got the square neckline as well with a mitted edge on the
Like
neckline.
a mitered corner.
Mitered, sorry, yeah,
Mm.
yeah. So yeah, that's my latest project.
And what's happening at the waist? It looks like there's an interesting detail there.
Yes, it's a bit of a fair isle pattern. So in the portrait, there's some lovely sort of like diamond shapes that are in the fabric. So I've just done a slight sort of band across there just to suggest that. And then I've got a cabled waist, so it draws it in. And then this is a seed stitch sort of like
Wow.
part. So this is bottom up that I knitted this one.
I would imagine that that's a great deal of fun to knit because you have all those different
Yeah.
things going on, the seed stitch, cables, and
Yeah.
fabric. It's really rare to get a combination of cables and color work.
Yeah, it makes it interesting and it knits up pretty quickly because of that, because you're not just constantly doing the same stitch. So yeah, it is a
It
pattern.
also looks like a heavier weight yarn. Is it worsted?
Yeah, it's more of a worsted weight. It's on, so it knits up pretty quickly on that. But I think maybe the Fair Isle is coming up a little bit thicker because of that. It looks bigger than on the fabric, but I kind of like it as well.
Is that your preferred weight of yarn to work with, worsted weight?
Um, no, I like DK as well, like double knitting, and it depends what I'm doing really, but I don't like if I knit too thick. Sometimes I don't particularly like. I'm doing a chunky dress at the moment as well, and sometimes I find that a little bit strenuous to knit because it just hurts your hands, and I find that I knit quicker in a DK, or yeah, worsted is quite nice to work into.
It's not my preferred weight. That's why I was
No,
asking. I like things that are very drapey and
yeah,
thicker. Otherwise, I feel like I'm in a straitjacket, like too stiff.
yeah.
Personal preference.
Oh yeah, I think it also, yeah, it depends on the design as well. Like this is in a these sleeves are mohair, so and that's a really nice
So
drapey
they're quite drapey.
set.
Mhm.
But I find mohair is very sort of I find it difficult to work in because if you make a mistake, I find it so much harder to put it back onto the needles, and you end up getting frustrated. So I don't often work in mohair, but I think it looks so lovely though. It's such a
It
ethereal kind of,
does. It
yeah,
really it looks like whipped cream. It's beautiful.
yeah, it does. So do you want me just to go through some of my,
Yes, yeah. Also, talk about your yarn choices because it seems like people have been asking me, like, well, when you interview people, find out what yarns they like to work with. Do you
Mhm.
work with different yarns all the time, or do you have a favorite brand?
I think because when I first started knitting, I used to just get Serdar. So I think I sort of got like a sentimental sort of inclination to go to that. But I find that it's quite accessible as well, and I like to create patterns that work with yarn that is quite, it's affordable for people and it's accessible, and you can wash it as well. So but there is such, it's so nice when you work with expensive yarns and the luxury of working with them. But I do like to stick to ones that are more accessible for everyone.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Yeah. So this is the Gosford blouse, and I don't know if you can see, it's got like a ruffled collar. So this is 1930s inspired. So if you've seen
No
Gosford
wonder
Park,
I like it.
yeah,
I liked it right
so
away with this like
you see,
interesting little stitch going across and the ruffle.
yeah, the ruffle,
Sorry.
it's got elastic around here, so it doesn't kind of, it kind of hangs when it's not worn. But so I don't know if you can sort of see how it ruffles, but it's inspired by, I don't know if you've seen Gosford Park, the film.
Yes.
Yeah, so it's inspired by, there's a character in that, I think she's called Isabel, and she's wearing a blouse like this. It's got the ruffled neck, and I just saw it and I thought I absolutely love that. So it's inspired by that. That's what made me do it. So it's still yet to be a pattern, this one though. So I think I'm going to make another version of it before I release it as a pattern. So yeah, I love the texture on it.
I like that too. It's very dainty looking, pretty.
Yeah. And then I also I do love Victorian styles as well. So this is one of my Victorian sweaters. It's got these lovely, you can see the lovely cabled sleeves and the puff shoulders with a silhouette. That's called Viola blouse, and it's got a cabled neckline as well. So I love cables. I tend to just default to cables quite a lot in patterns. But yeah, this is one of my favorite ones.
Do you use a stitch dictionary to find cables, or do you make up your own cables? Like,
I just make up my own. I tend to do just stick to a certain type of sequence with the cables. Um, yeah, but I think I would like to explore that a little bit more and do more intricate cables. But yeah, at the moment I tend to just stick to a simple kind of one. Do you like Do you wear Victorian styles, or do you knit Victorian?
I haven't. No, I never
No.
have. Um, and also I thought you were going to ask me, like, do you like to knit cables?
Oh well, yeah.
I think people fall into one of three categories. They love cables or traveling stitches. They
Hmm.
love lace or they
Hmm.
love color work. I'm not in the cable category. I
You
did
know.
knit a sweater for my son that was cables all over that I design, and I just use very basic, like 3/3, no big deal.
Yeah.
Um, Color work I like because I like how it looks. But
Yeah.
I think my favorite thing in terms of what challenges me and keeps me motivated to keep knitting is probably lace.
Lace, you see, I love how lace looks. I absolutely love it. But I don't have this sort of, I don't know, at the moment the patience for it. I think I would love to get, I would love to focus on it and get really good at it. But I tend to just stick to a very, in a safe space with lace. So that's something that I'd like to explore more.
You and I are in completely different realms.
I
I'm
think so.
knitting with thin yarn, and for me, the longer a sweater takes, the happier I am. If it takes me 4 months, I'm really
Yeah.
happy because I live in Manhattan. I have a small apartment and small-ish closets, and you can easily max out your closet space. Like 10 of your sweaters would fill my closet. So
Yeah.
I knit thinner things. I
You've got more space.
squeeze more in. And if they take a long time, then it takes me maybe a couple of years or
Yeah.
maybe 3 years to get 10 sweaters. But knitting
Hmm.
your weight, I could probably knit 3 sweaters in a
Yeah.
year.
Yeah, I think I'm quite
So
impatient. I hurry too much, I think, and I tend to like move to different things on the needles several times. So I think I need to slow down, and maybe lace would help me with that.
it definitely will. Definitely. Especially, try a 2 millimeter needle.
Yeah. Yeah, I think knitting a jumper like with 3 millimeter would, yeah, it would take a lot longer than I use. I tend to go to 5 millimeter. That's my standard. Sometimes four. Yeah. So do we just to keep moving with the,
Yes, it's fine. I mean, it's so interesting for me to meet people from other parts of the world and who are doing a different kind of knitting experience, just to compare notes because
yeah.
it's there's an array. There's an array.
Hmm.
I mean, I just can't express how much I love knitting and how
Yeah.
I enjoy so much seeing like what other people are doing that I'm not doing and that I don't want to do, but yet, I'm sure there are plenty of people watching who are in your camp. Do not even show me a 2 millimeter needle, Billy. So good. There's other options for people who want to
Yeah.
get something, big and beautiful, and it won't take 3 months.
Yeah.
It might. I mean, maybe those sleeves, like they could take a month
They
each.
could.
I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I think sometimes I put things down and then it ends up taking months just because I forget about it and then
Yeah, well,
so
that's
it's, but
different.
yeah, that's different. But this one is so this is one of my most popular patterns. It's the Adelaide Robinson blouse, and this is a 1930s inspired blouse. So again, I've got the cable band and the peplum, and it's got puff shoulder. So this is where I do the shoulder seam. So it's got like a turtleneck, and then the shoulder seam is worked up until the puff there, and then you increase to get the puff shoulder. So this was inspired by a 1930s book. I don't know if you've ever read this one, but it's called, so it's by C.S. Forester, The Pursued. Have you heard of it?
No, I've heard of
It's
him, but
brilliant. You
but
should read it if you, I mean, if you're into vintage, and I just think it's got such beautiful descriptions. And so this blouse is inspired by a description of the female form, how the clothes and the garments fitted her female form, and it just personified a 1930s silhouette. So that's why. But the book is brilliant anyway, and it's got some lovely descriptions. So that was what it was inspired by.
well, that's a great tip. I mean, sometimes, not often, but sometimes I'll listen to an e-audio book while
Mhm.
I'm knitting. I mean, I prefer to watch old movies while I'm
Yeah,
knitting, but I can also listen to a book. So I'll see if I'm sure that's available on audio. Somebody must have
yeah. I'm
recorded
I'm
that.
pretty sure it will. Yeah. So that's the Adelaide Robinson, and this is it's a vest that I did, which is Tudor inspired. It was one of my first patterns. So it's to wear over. It's got quite a low neckline, so it's to wear over blouses or shirts,
Hmm.
and it's got a Tudor sort of shape. One of my favorite ones as well. And you might like this one because it's 1930s.
I'm really enjoying the color choices.
Yeah,
I'm thinking they're very subdued. There's nothing loud or flashy. They all kind of have that Renaissance, or at
yeah,
least what we think they were wearing in the Renaissance kinds of colors. So kudos to you for choosing
yeah,
those colors. And that's the thing, a lot of people who are not knitting vintage, they love these like indie dyed yarns with all kinds of,
mhm,
variation and faded in different colors. But if you look at these paintings that Katriana's talking about, they're wearing a solid color thing. Maybe
mhm.
it's two colors and it has some kind of trim on it. So are you choosing these colors based on colors that you've seen in paintings?
Yeah. I think at times I am, particularly if it's Tudor inspired. I think that there's an intensity to the color, but it is just a single color often. But sometimes it'll just be I'm just inclined to like a particular type of color. Like I also really like neutral colors, and I like knitting just in white and beige kind of colors. But yeah, with Tudor ones, I
But for solid colors, I mean, for people who
yeah,
are watching who may not know, for solid colors that you get consistently like the same kind of color, it's really best to choose these commercially made yarns like
mhm,
Sertar or
yeah,
Drops or, some of the other well-known brands,
yeah,
Cascade, um, to get that effect,
definitely,
as opposed to some of the beautiful yarns like Malabrigo, which are going to give you more like gradations of
yeah,
color. So, just a tip for people who are thinking
yeah.
like kind of yarn should I select? If you want this look, you got to usually do not a hand-dyed yarn, but
Yeah,
commercial.
no, exactly. Yeah, you do tend to get a better palette of colors with them. And this one is, so this
Cute.
is the sailor sweater. And this, people keep asking me, when's it going to be a pattern? Because it's not yet. And I'm going to make it into a pattern as soon as I make another one, just because I want to work over a few things. But yeah, it is one of my absolute favorites. And it was literally just knit up. I didn't even write down the fair isle. I just did it. And when I do things like that, though, it's kind of when I'm trying to do it into a pattern, I've got to go back and do all the maths and after the fact. Um, but I was just really happy with the way it just turned out.
It's still got a set-in sleeve though. It's not a circular yoke, right? It has a separate sleeve.
Yeah, so no, this is in the round.
It's in the round. But
It is in the round, yeah.
but the top of it looks like the pattern goes around like as if it were
Yeah,
a yoke, but it's not.
but it's not. So just there's actually increases along here. So when you work the increases, it just creates a little bit more space. So it can be a bit tricky when you're writing up a pattern into different sizes because the increases are incorporated into the
Oh,
into the same place.
so it's not a separate sleeve.
No,
It's
it's
all,
all in
oh,
all connected
wow.
top down in the round. So yeah.
Good one.
So yeah. But I mean there's something about when you knit, because obviously I do some modern techniques, but there is something about when you work completely vintage, authentic, knitting flat and constructing it with separate sleeves. There's something about that that creates a certain vintage look. So I definitely want to do some patterns where it is just worked in that way. But yeah, but it is fun to do. It's quite quick if you're doing it in the round. So
That's really cute.
yeah,
And the colors are perfect.
yeah, Nordic colours. So all this I've got the Renaissance bodice as well. This is another
Mm.
vest, and this is done with like I don't know if you can see a slightly sparkly yarn, but it's like really nice, rich. I don't know if you can pick it up on the light
Oh,
there.
yes. Yes,
Yeah,
yes, yes. If you turned it a little.
yeah.
And is it I-cord that's lacing up the front?
No, that is actually just like a velvet rope that I got. But yeah, you can. Some people who test knit did actually do an I-cord as well, so that works as well.
If people want to test knit for you, how should they reach out? Or are you taking on new test knitters or you have everybody who you need?
Yeah, no, so I am always taking on new test knitters. So if you're just on Instagram, so it's at the Cat and Cage collection. If they just send me a message on there, I am going to set up a mailing list as well, but I just haven't got around to adding everybody on. So yeah, they can just message me, and I'm happy to have anyone at any level as well. Yeah. So and this is another late 1930s cardigan. So this was actually originally done in a brown color because it was inspired by a film that was set in the late 1930s, and it was named after a character, the show Senna cardigan. But I changed it for red as well. So, but the original one it was inspired by was a brown color. Yeah, it's a really nice
A
silhouette.
lot of buttons.
Yeah, I don't know. Do you like? How do you feel about sewing on buttons? I always hate that part of it. It just always takes longer than I plan.
Well, I do it when the sweater calls for it, and I try and buy vintage buttons
Yeah.
so that I'm just so excited to have a beautiful button in my hand
Hmm.
that, you do it. It's like a necessary evil, and it makes such a big difference to have the just right button. So
Hmm.
I sometimes spend months like sourcing the button that I like.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, no, it
people,
can be tricky because it can change the whole, aesthetic. If you've got the wrong button, it just ruins the what you're going for. But there's a nice, I can't remember the name of the shop, but I found somewhere on Etsy that sells individual vintage buttons. And I got some like pearl gold circular ones. But I'll try and find the name of it and I'll send it to you just in case you're looking for more buttons.
there's somebody great in the UK. I've never ordered from her, Swagman's daughter. She has
Ah,
fantastic stuff. For me, usually it's, I don't just need one beautiful button. I need a set. It could be
yeah.
for a sweater I'm knitting now. I think it has 10 or 11 buttons.
Hmm.
So it's hard to find vintage ones in that quantity.
Yeah.
I did find it's not exactly the perfect color that I would have liked, but I was insistent. I live in New York. There's a whole garment center with plenty of places selling buttons, beautiful, all kinds of buttons. But I just wanted vintage. And I have a
Hmm.
couple of people who I turn to, and one of them I can usually find. Sometimes I
Yeah.
have to wait, but it's worth it.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely worth it.
Can you
And so,
show the buttons up close so
oh
people can
yeah.
see them?
Hmm.
Like just put it really close to your camera. So they're perforated. It's the color of the yarn that's coming through.
Yeah, so they're just there's like yeah, holes in them, yeah.
Very pretty.
Yeah, they are really nice. Okay, so this
Oh,
is
it's wonderful that you pulled out so many different things. Good.
and then this is another Victorian. So this is the coffee in Paris jumper, and it's currently being test knit at the moment. So I don't know if you can see it's got a turtleneck, but this is again sleeves.
Oh my goodness. What
Yeah,
what do you call this kind of sleeve? Is it a mutton chop or does it have a name?
I think it's a mutton sleeve. I think that's the
A
correct
mutton
term.
sleeve.
And this is so this has been worked with short rows, so to create the volume at the top. So like I think you can do it without as well because you can do increases to create the puff and then the short rows create the volume. So you don't have to have it quite as voluminous.
It
So,
looks
yeah.
like it would be very warm for the
Yeah.
coldest day because you're not going to easily get a coat over that.
No.
You have to put layers of stuff underneath.
Yeah, it's more of a you wear it on its own. It's the weather right now is it's like a spring. It's coming into spring, so it's just cold enough to wear a jumper, but you can leave a coat off. So I think this they might wear that soon.
And again, the cable. This is a different cable though than what you're doing elsewhere.
Yeah, so it's just the panel. It's just over more stitches, so it's over 8 stitches as opposed to this is right here is 4 stitches, and so I've done over 8 stitches.
It looks very nice. It has a certain chicness to it that
Mhm.
the others don't.
Yeah, I think it's a little bit. I think something maybe about the thicker wool just makes it look a little bit more modern as well. There's like a modern twist more to it because
And
it's
the
quite
color,
pretty. Yeah, and the
color
color.
also. Now, what yarn is that? Because that looks like it's not a solid color.
It's yeah, no, it's not. It's Aran. It's an Aran yarn. Yeah. So and then you might. This is a lot thicker, and this is. I don't normally knit this thick, but this was like I just had this idea I was going to do this chunky dress, and I think it's going to be very difficult to wear. So I'm gonna swap it down to a DK version, but I'm going to finish this just for me, and it's going to be a dress, and you can see how. And again, it's got cables down the center, puff sleeves. I suppose you would never knit that thick, but it's
Well, for a coat or
yeah.
like an overgarment, not something to wear under a coat. Yes, I would. I would.
Hmm.
Not a dress. I mean, I'm too short. I would look like the Pillsbury Doughboy if I was wearing a dress that's
Yeah,
bulky. But that's me. There are people who are 5'11" and slim and can carry
yeah.
it. I'm only, I'm embarrassed to say 4'11",
Oh, okay.
shrinking. So yeah, it's hard
Yeah,
to wear something that bulky, even in a
yeah.
jacket.
If it was a coat, maybe you could put it over
Yes.
something, but
Yeah.
not yeah, not a dress. Yeah,
Or a shawl, a nice cozy shawl,
yeah,
maybe I would do thick like that.
yeah. For the cold days, yeah.
But
And
that's what makes horse racing. There's different people like different. yarns, different weights.
Yeah, no, definitely. This one is so it's also Victorian inspired, and it's a cloak. So this is done with a DK yarn, and it's so this is currently in Knitting magazine. So it's been published in Knitting magazine. That's it. I think it's a UK magazine. I'm not sure if you've heard of it. Um, but yeah, it's currently there if anybody wants the pattern. So, and it's got some vintage buttons at the top as well.
Well, I think that's a very practical, a different kind of a garment that a lot
Yeah.
of us don't have. So if you want to change up your wardrobe, it's very cute. It
Yeah.
reminds me of like Florence Nightingale.
Well, it's inspired by Victorian cloaks, but it's yeah, it's a nice little elegant addition to anything in this weather as well in springtime because it's kind of open here. But yeah.
I'm
Um,
picturing it with some very beautiful glove because the glove would
yeah,
show.
yeah, that would be like a nice fancy glove would be really nice alongside. And this one is I'm working on a new version of this, and it's inspired by Cyrano, 17th century. So it's got like a little panel ruffle here, and but I'm gonna do a more solid yarn for the bodice instead. So I haven't actually finished the second sleeve, but I thought it was worth showing because it's what I'm currently going to be working on.
It's rare that I chat like this with people who are designing.
Hmm.
I'm not even sure I can think of anybody else I've had on as a guest who designs, maybe. But I'm kind of wondering, how do you divvy up your time? Like, you clearly want to knit for yourself,
Hmm.
but you're also knitting for other people,
Yeah.
and you're designing and writing the patterns
Hmm.
and getting the test knitters, et cetera, et cetera. How, like, do you have any idea of what percentage of your time you're devoting to each of these different channels?
It changes. I think I can get overwhelmed sometimes because I want to do so much. So then I have to just switch off and just focus on getting the piece knitted, and then I can move on to the writing stage. I tend not to do them at the same time. I might make some notes, but yeah, it can get a bit confusing because you're trying to do too many things. So yeah, I think it can change. It depends.
But if an order comes in that somebody wants you to knit,
Yeah.
say, this sweater for them, do you drop what you're doing to do that?
Yeah, to a degree. I think I give a window of time. So I allow up to 8 weeks for the hand knit. So if I'm in the middle of something, I can get certain things finished before I then move. But yeah, it's just about changing what the priority is.
So you're very good at managing your time.
I think so at times, yeah. Maybe sometimes, not so much, but yeah, I try to be.
Because I would think it's hard to juggle all of that. I mean, I have a hard enough time just doing this podcast and doing my knitting.
Yeah. You see that's what when people do lots of videos, I tend to just take pictures and post when I feel like it. But having to do like a podcast and speaking to different people, I couldn't do that and juggle things. I can't give in so much of yourself in a certain way. I can't do that. So yeah, that's your strength. It's not mine in that way.
I'm not sure it's my strength, but I am having a good time doing it.
Yeah.
The editing is another whole thing. It consumes quite a bit of my time. Really, at the end of the day, all I want to do is knit, and I bet it's the
Yeah.
same for you. It's so much fun.
Yeah. I think my boyfriend actually did say to me that the world doesn't revolve around your knitting, and I was like, it does.
It
Sometimes
does.
it really does. Yeah.
Yeah, it does. Like if I'm
Yeah.
at a doctor's office and they call my name, they're ready to take me.
Yeah.
I'm like, wait a minute. I'm like, I just have three more stitches. I'll be right there. It
Yeah, it
does.
does. It does.
No. Or if I'm on the subway and my stop is coming up, like I'm rushing to do like the last few stitches. I know the subway is not going to wait for me, but I let all the other people get off
Yeah.
first. I'm like the last one to get off. They have to hold the door for me.
Well,
So
before
I
needs
feel
to
that way.
stop. Yeah.
Have you run through your whole pile, or there's more?
There's another. These are the ones that I got out, but so this is it's Edwardian inspired, so it's got lots of ruffles at the front here,
I
and just
love the ruffles. Oh,
yeah,
so
they're such
pretty.
fun to do. Yeah, but yeah, that's that one. So
And
loosely Edwardian, just with the shape of the front.
what's the weight of that yarn? That looks a little thinner. Is that DK?
That's DK. Yeah, yeah. It's quite a stiffer kind of DK, but yeah, it's quite. I think that was Serdar actually. I think it's a Serdar one. Yeah, so I think that's the one. This is all the ones I had in the pile anyway.
Wow, it's a lot. It's a
Yeah,
lot. Um, your dress form looks very interesting back there.
my witch. This.
Your mannequin.
Yeah, yeah,
Did you make
yeah.
that?
No, no, I got that. I think it was a birthday present actually. But yeah, no, I love it. It's really nice.
I keep debating, do I need one? Should I buy one? I don't have space, but it seems like a really practical thing to have. Maybe people will comment and say, "Oh, Billy, definitely get one. It'll
Yeah.
change your life." Do you rely on it a lot? Are you fitting things onto it?
No, not in that sense. It's usually the just to sort of see how thick the form is looking. I'll put it on there just so I can get an outside sort of view of it. But I don't like do any sort of like measurements on there.
No.
It's more just like to look at the overall finish.
I would definitely be trying to replicate my exact measurements so that I could try it on that to see, is it bunching over here?
Yeah.
Are the shoulders hitting in the right place? Because sometimes it's hard to tell on my own body. I'll have my husband like, can you hold this shoulder while I hold this shoulder? Like, I don't have enough hands. I need to be an octopus. Or,
Yeah.
what does it look like in the back? I can't see.
Yeah. So
So,
yeah, it is a good way to see that.
so I don't really have any more questions to ask you. Is there anything
Yeah.
that you want people to know before we say goodbye?
Just that I do take on test knitters constantly, so they can always reach out. I'm happy to have any levels on my list. But yeah, I think that's it really, and just to know where to get my patterns from.
I will definitely put
Yeah,
all the links in the show notes. And oh, it's been really fun chatting with you. Maybe we should take a minute to talk about Liverpool.
yeah.
I have somewhere in my archives my ticket stub from, I think, September 1964
Oh,
when the Fab Four Beatles
really?
came to my hometown, Philadelphia. And there was a big convention center. I don't think the convention center is still standing, but it was a huge venue. And my mother took me and I saw them. Like I saw
Oh,
them
wow.
in person when they were still at the very beginning of their career. Once they became famous, like on the Ed
Yeah,
Sullivan Show here, and they'd been to New York first, they were already very well known in the United States, and I think it was their very first tour. So I did get to see them in a much nicer venue, like the New York people. I think they were at Shea Stadium, like a huge sports arena with, I don't know, tens of thousands of seats. I saw them in a much smaller, more, I mean, not that it was intimate, but smaller. So that's the only
yeah.
thing I know about Liverpool, that the Beatles
Feel.
came from there. And
I
that's,
think that's a lot of people who that's what they think of when they think of Liverpool. I've got friends though who still follow Paul McCartney around because he comes to Liverpool quite a lot because of just for music, or he's got Lipper as well, one of the performing arts schools here. So they'll follow him around whenever he has a performance.
he
Yeah.
was always my favorite
Yeah.
because he was always the cutest. And he still looks really good.
Yeah.
I mean, considering I know he's older than I am and I'm old, so he's like really old, but he's still got all that beetle hair thing going on.
Yeah. They'll be going for that length of time. That's it's a lot for them. It's an achievement. So
Oh yeah. I mean, he's just an incredible person. There are few people walking the face of the earth of that ilk. You know,
Yeah,
he's one of them. Mick Jagger's another, but I would take Paul McCartney any day
yeah,
over the Rolling Stones.
yeah. Yeah, no, I think my friends always, are fanatical about the Beatles. I think I'm less well versed in them, but I do appreciate them. I think you're kind of spoiled a little bit when you're in this city, because there's certain landmarks here still, and yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if you weren't alive at the time, it's hard to really know what an absolute international phenomenon this was. Um,
Hmm.
the way they were dressing, their hairstyles, they were something completely different from what we had seen before. And then their sound was very different for Americans. It was really like the British invasion, we called it. There was, in America, we had like the Beach Boys, which was a real like surfing kind of music. But then the Beatles came with a very different flavor to their
Hmm.
music that somehow appealed to us. But I think it was mostly because of them and their
Yeah,
looks. It wasn't that, well, the music was good, but I think it was how they presented themselves that
yeah.
was just so different from like
Personalities
Coldplay.
as well. Yeah, just a different presence.
Yeah, yeah, like the Beach Boys were wearing like, different clothes, like surfer kind of, or like very classic American button-down shirt. They were like all American kind of preppy. The Beatles were like more artistic, more creative. And then yeah, I mean, Brian Wilson, as one of the Beach Boys who wrote a lot of that great music, he's certainly on a par with Paul McCartney and his music
Yeah.
ability. But that Lennon-McCartney thing, and of course, for us in New York, losing John Lennon right here,
Hmm.
it sort of cemented him and Yoko. Like, it's a thing
Yeah.
here, we'll just never forget so much time and how their music evolved. The whole
Hmm.
psychedelic phase, they didn't start out like that. So, really, I think it's just people of my age, exactly my age, because I was just old enough when they came to go through all of their different
Yeah.
phases. And some phases I didn't like so much, but at the
Hmm.
beginning, yeah, they were like
Yeah.
nothing else we'd ever seen. So, yeah. Well, someday
Yeah.
maybe I'll get to Liverpool. It's not
Yeah.
it's not in my crystal ball when I look.
Yeah.
If I
You never
do,
know.
if I do, I'll reach out. And if you ever get to New York, feel free to look
Yeah.
me up.
I've always wanted to go to New York. I've never been to America. I think that the thought of flying for that length of time, I get nervous flying. So yeah, but maybe someday I will get to go to America.
Well, you can take a ship if you're really
Yeah,
afraid to do the flying, but
that would
just
take a long time though
have
to
a
do.
couple of drinks and
Yeah,
and sleep and you're here
yeah,
before you know it.
yeah,
It's not a big deal. You haven't
yeah. I think once
flown
you do it, yeah.
you haven't flown anywhere for that length of time, like six,
Oh,
7 years?
I've flown 4 hours. I think just over 4 hours to go to Greece. So I suppose it's not that much longer than that, really.
And if you're knitting, you're not even thinking
Well, that's
about it.
yeah. I've
You
never
could
taken my
you
knitting
could
on
do
on
a
a
lot of
flight.
knitting on that flight, although
Yeah,
it's probably better to sleep so that you arrive
yeah,
refreshed. But between sleeping and knitting, you might
yeah,
find it like a real treat, actually.
yeah,
You could
yeah. I
get a lot
incorporate knitting.
done. No
Yeah,
phone, no phone ringing, no computer distracting you. It's really like,
yeah. You can just focus solely on
yeah.
that one thing. Yeah, yeah. Definitely something I need to do. Yeah,
Well, Vogue Knitting Live next
yeah. Oh,
January or February. It's
yeah,
a lot of people come from overseas to come to the show. It's a big show, and
yeah,
a lot of the famous knitters from around the world gravitate here. Sari Nordlund has been, Joji Locatelli comes, a lot of different, like, popular knitters do come.
yeah. Yeah, that's definitely something to keep in mind.
Yeah, see, I mean, maybe some of your friends will hold your hand on the way over.
Yeah, yeah.
All right. Well, so nice meeting you. Thanks
Oh,
for
you
taking the
too.
time and love seeing all of your work. Beautiful.
Oh, thank you. Okay, yeah. Oh,
Bye.
thank you. Thanks very much. Bye.
Bye. Pleasure.
Thank you.